What's up, guys? My name's Zayas, and today I'm doing a new series which I decided to call the monthly manga Roundup. I was thinking of calling this series the monthly manga moment, but then after using my better judgment, I decided against it. I'll just be looking at a bunch of ongoing series that are coming out, and I'll try to use the last 10 chapters, maybe I'll use a little more, to rate these series from good, sort of whatever, and bad. I'll put all the series I'm referencing down below in the description and all the chapters I'm using just for future reference. Also, I kind of wanted to do this at the end of every month, but today, luckily, I have the luxury of using April Fool's Day as an excuse for not uploading it yesterday. So, yeah. So, I'll try to read more bad series for next month. I didn't realize how many bad series I had dropped off, and now there's like another 50 chapters I gotta catch up with. It's kind of a pain, but yeah, I'll deal with that next month. Starting off with the worst manga. Up first, we have Monster. Went from this cute little adventure with a goblin to this guy just shitting on everyone and getting whatever he wants. It's a pretty bottom of the barrel power fantasy at this point, and there's so much text in this manga, it kind of reads like a light novel. Like, I know this was adapted from a light novel, but in manga form, you kind of have less text than this. Tokyo Revengers, now this is a series I actually liked quite a bit before they saved Hina. But it's gone pretty downhill from there. Characters are dying off left and right, and there's no real impact. Time travel just means this dude can save whoever he wants. Also, it's kind of funny, like everybody in the series knows this dude can travel through time, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, time travel should have a pretty big implication. All the Yakuza stuff is kind of spiraled out of control. Like, these guys are literally in high school, and they are all just bringing these guns and, like, weapons out and just shooting each other. Like, is this even a delinquent manga anymore? Takamichi and Mikey are the only characters which get any spotlight, but there's so many side characters that I think you're supposed to feel hyped about, but you don't really get that hype. Sometimes reading this series, I feel like I have dementia. It'll just be like Takamichi will cry in a chapter and talk about how he doesn't want his friends to help him. In the next chapter, he'll go find his friends and then he'll cry again and then he'll be like, no, I don't want you guys to help me. No, 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 I'm good. And it just keeps happening over and over again. Like, are we getting anywhere? Also, in all of these big, like, massive group fights, like, these should have, like, a lot of hype. It should be exciting. Should be a lot of build-up. But it's just, like, these 500 random dudes just pull up to this crosswalk in the middle of nowhere for no reason. Like, they don't explain why there was 500 people just waiting on the side of the road just to jump one dude. Also, Takamichi's idea of saving Mikey is so ridiculous. It's like, yeah, to save this dude, I'm gonna form a gang and go after him. It's like, no, dude, you should be calling the police and getting this guy in prison. If one of my friends told me that they had dark impulses that made it so that they wanted to murder people, yeah, they'd be going straight to prison. Imagine Mikey in court. He'd be like, the dark impulses made me do it. And the judge would be like, yeah, 40 years to life in jail with no possibility of parole. Alright, moving on to the more mediocre sort of manga. Out reads less like a delinquent manga nowadays and more like some battle shonen. It feels like the main character has been missing for like 100 chapters. We like never see this dude. But yeah, this series just isn't as good as some of the best delinquent manga out there, something like Crows or Holy Land, but I guess it tries to go for more of a shonen tone. There is still good art, there's great character design, the fights are still pretty decent. At this point, I describe it as style over substance. There's also a lot of cheap gore in this manga. It's like a bunch of high school kids running around with like swords and like flails, and yeah, just a bit far-fetched. Also, every time they mention that this character has poison inside them or whatever, it's so cringy. I don't even know. Yeah, I was kind of expecting more from this manga considering that the start was pretty decent, but I don't know where it went. Yeah, this series I kind of expected to be a lot worse. I'm going to put the name up on screen because I can't really say it. So starting off, it's just the same basic Isekai concept, premise, and everything. And I kind of just expect it to be like that most of the way through. But it's actually, if you turn your brain off and you just really don't care that much about the content of this manga, it's not bad. There's a focus on food. There's some cool action scenes. It's really not that good for the fighting. It just, if you want a brain dead Isekai, it's not that bad. Like, if you're fiending for Isekai, this is serviceable. But I would say it really does nothing to differentiate itself from like the other like millions of isekai light novel adaptations out there. Alright, now we'll move on to the good series. Saihate no Paladin. You would think this is another light novel isekai kind of standard stuff, but it's actually quite good. There's some pretty great art in this thing, especially compared to a lot of isekais nowadays. and there's some pretty good world building. I was a little worried about the lack of direction when the characters were just going around to kill monsters, but now it kind of seems like the plot has sorted itself out and it's going pretty well. Al's a pretty fun character that's introduced recently, and the gods meddling around has been pretty interesting, so I'm excited to see how the rest of the series pans out. Baki Dou just had the conclusion of a pretty great fight. I think this is one of the best fights in Baki in a long time. I did not expect Jack to win, and Jack is one of my favorite characters. You know I'm biased, but that fight was just hype. Like, looking at the art in this fight compared to some of the previous fights, it feels so polished, and I really enjoy the way that characters move in Baki. Last time I remember a fight that was like on this caliber and this good, it must have been like Musashi and Yujiro, or maybe even Yujiro and Baki. Man, I love Jack. I hope he gets more action. I know there's going to be a rematch between some pretty strong characters, so it's going to be fun. Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Now, this is a webtoon, and most webtoons end up dropping off past 100 chapters or sometimes even earlier, but surprisingly, the series hasn't really dropped off and the plot is still pretty clear. It seems like there's a pretty strong vision of what the authors want to do with this series, and the story is pretty exciting. The calamities we've seen so far have been pretty good. I'd say the recent one is probably my least favorite, but I still enjoy it. This world is very different from any other world you can really think of in most manga. The art in this series is quite good, but I would say it's like a webtoon good, not like a normal manga good, something like an Innocent or like Vagabond or something. So One Piece, Wano is quickly becoming one of my favorite arcs in One Piece. I'd say I still prefer Water 7 over it and the Marineford arc, but other than that, it's pretty hard to think of arcs that have been better than this. And there's still more to come. I think Raizo's fight in Wano was one of the funnier fights since like Senior Pink. This isn't in the last 10 chapters, but the scene where all of the characters were face down with the Yonko, that was super exciting. The fight itself was great. I think Kaido's scales look incredibly good in like every single fight scene he's in. It just makes it look so cool. And all the Straw Hats got some good action. I think Frankie got a good fight. Zoro and Sanji both got incredible fights. And we got the Brancho Bomber, Queen. I think both Queen and King were great characters with great designs. They used some good abilities. I wish King stuck around a little bit longer, but, it was still pretty good. The fight between Law and Kid and Big Mom was just incredible. There was tons of cool abilities used in here. The back and forth between Big Mom and them was pretty amazing. There were moments where you think they would lose, but they came back, they used a bunch of abilities. There were moments when you think Big Mom is done for, but she still had more. And I think it's pretty deserving for a fight that has one of the strongest characters in the series, a Yonko, losing. And the climax to this fight was by far the best part, where Law pulled out Corazon's silent ability. I think it's a little bit funny because it kind of emphasizes how useless Corazon's ability is if Law can just replicate it. But all the same, it was such a great climax. The Kaido-Luffy fight has been better than every single other fight in this arc. As I said, I love how Kaido's scales look. His half-human form has been pretty cool, especially in battle. He's been using tons of different abilities. Luffy's been throwing everything he has at him. He's pulling new stuff out of nowhere. It's been very, very fun. I'm really loving Luffy's new form and all the information we got about Joy Boy. His new abilities are pretty crazy, from getting inside of Kaido and inflating him, or to other stuff like becoming gigantic. It's just crazy, cartoonish, fun, fast-paced fights. Now, I've heard a lot of people saying bad stuff about this, like, oh, Luffy is becoming the child of destiny who's gonna one-shot all the villains and he's gonna become super OP and all this garbage. And people also complain about it being a little bit too goofy. And I think from the beginning of One Piece, a lot of the fights have been goofy and silly. There's stuff like Water Luffy, which is literally just Luffy drinking water, or Gear Third, where he just blows air into his fist and it just becomes huge. Like, how is that not kind of stupid, kind of silly, dumb? But in terms of the Child of Destiny, this guy has the strongest devil fruit. He's become the strongest human being ever. I don't really believe that either, because first of all, they only said that he had the most ridiculous power in the world. Now, is this the strongest power in the world? Maybe, but maybe not. We don't really know for sure that this is the best power in the world. And secondly, I don't really think Oda will just make Luffy just stomp every single person in the universe and just give him the One Piece for free, like after writing a story like this for so long, right? There's no way it's gonna happen. And even in the recent chapter that I read, which literally just dropped like yesterday, it was like, yeah, Luffy had a hard time dealing with Kaido even with his new form, which is understandable because Kaido is one of the strongest characters in the entire series. So don't buy too much into the, oh, this is gonna become like Naruto, he's just gonna stomp every villain because he has the power of destiny. If Luffy somehow stomps every single opponent and there's no contest, okay, just tell me I was wrong, but I don't believe it. Also, on top of that, I think even the goofy parts, One Piece will get serious when things are serious. So I know that Oda knows when the right time to become serious is. I think the ending of this fight will be a little more serious than people expect it to be because it's been so goofy so far. Alright, moving on to Cigarette and Cherry. Now this one is technically finished, but it's not all the way translated, so I'm counting it for this one. Now this series has a lot of lighthearted fun moments if you're looking for that. The main character is pretty dumb and idiotic, so if you don't like characters who like do stupid things all the time, maybe you won't like this series. But I think it adds like a kind of a nice feel to the series. It's kind of like a shonen protagonist in like a rom-com. It's funny to see. There are some very fun moments in here, like the condom buying scene. At the moment, I'm pretty worried about the main couple, but that's how you know it's a good series, because it has you invested in caring about the main couple. Send my regards to Kenshiro. This series is and has been comedy gold since it started. It's from the same author as Backstreet Girls, if you've read that. Man, I don't know how this author thinks of this stuff. Like, it's so like ridiculous. It's like, what was this guy thinking of? Like, some of this stuff I'm just like, how does this author think of this? Like, it's so far-fetched and like dumb. It's like, how did he think of these scenarios? It's like sometimes a guy will come into the massage clinic and he'll be like, I need help, and in order to fix him, Kenshiro decides to go grab his idol body pillow's boobs, which fixed all his problems apparently. And then just by being able to massage some dude's body, he figured out that he's been taking upskirt pictures of girls for several years. And those are like the tip of the iceberg. There's funny joke after funny joke in this series. It's hilarious. And there's even been some plot developments as well, like the main character finally needing money. So maybe he'll work some more. And even those are used as jokes because apparently he spent all his money at sex shops and gambling it away, and now he needs to go get more money. Now lastly, skip to Loafer. This series is super warm and lighthearted. Usually it's very chill, but sometimes it's been more emotional and pretty powerful in those moments, especially with characters like Yuzu and Egashira. I feel like this is how slice of life should be written. The characters like feel real and alive. Of course, there's not too many events going on in the background, but there doesn't have to be for stuff to be interesting. And some characters are dumb at times, and I think that is part of characters being high schoolers, and there is some high school drama going around, but again, this is about characters in high school, and if I look back to what I did in high school, I was a dumbass too. I even find it a little bit nostalgic because it does remind me of how people were like so childish, and a lot of stuff that happens in high school does happen in here. When you first see the art, you don't really think it's that great, but this art is actually like really sneaky good. Like the characters' eyes, especially in the moments where they need to be, are done really well. And I think even like stuff like backgrounds and settings are done extraordinarily well. Don't expect too much in the way of romance. There is romance in this series, but it's not like a romance-centered series. It takes it lightly, but I expect something to pop up soon. Maybe not with the main couple, there might be a little bit of progression there, but I expect some of the side characters to get involved in some romantic relationships pretty soon. And in series like this, new characters are always welcome because they're going to be complex and there's going to be something interesting about them. I expect a surge of popularity in this series, not only because I think it's really good, but also because it's getting an anime adaptation, so that might bring some more eyes to this manga. But yeah, I would heavily recommend, if you were to check out any manga in this review, I would recommend this one. This new Among Us manga, yeah, I'd say it's pretty sus. So that's it for this video. Let me know if there's any other series you want me to do. Again, I'll try to read more bad manga for next time, but this time I didn't have it like pre-read, so I had to read a bunch of horrible manga, and it was pretty rough. But thank you. Like the video if you enjoyed. Comment. Let me know if you like any of these manga. I'll see you in the next one.